Have you seen the abridged classic memes? For Henry David Thoreau's great nature classic, Walden, it goes, "Man sits outside for 2 years. Nothing happens." That's what the trust technique can look like. Man stands by a horse. Nothing happens. There's no twirling ropes, waving wands, or clicking for treats. As trust technique co-founder James French says, no round pen required. But looks can be deceiving. Thoreau went to Walden Woods for a more authentic relationship with nature. "I wanted to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life," he said. He went not to exploit nature for his own gain, but to listen, to learn, to communicate. His was a journey of connection. The trust technique is also about connection, about communication. This is not another training technique to subjugate our animal friends, whether that be by fair means or foul. Rather, the trust technique employs a set of simple mindfulness skills that help human and non-human animals share feelings and develop trust in each other. This video is a part of my assessment for the Diploma in Mindfulness for People and Their Animals, which is the qualification needed to become a trust technique practitioner. For the next little while, I'll be explaining the 3 foundation principles of the trust technique. They are creative reaction, realization learning, and trusted cooperation, and how a trust technique consultation can benefit you and your non-human friends. I'll also just touch on the history and development of the trust technique and how the trust technique can save the world. And I'm not joking. Now, because I'm enrolled in the large animal stream, I'll use horses in all my examples here. But the trust technique can and has been used for relationship building across a wide range of species. Never in the history of calming down has anyone ever calmed down by being told, "Calm down." That's as true for horses as it is for humans. But what if that's wrong? What if there is some way to express calm down that actually works? That's what creative reaction, the first principle of the trust technique, is all about. Let me explain. Thinking is a high-energy activity, and high-energy thoughts lead to high-energy feelings. They're 2 sides of the same coin. Say you're at work and a colleague makes a snide comment, or at home, your partner has a dig about some chore done badly. You spend the rest of the day thinking about it, getting crosser and crosser, dredging up all those snappy comebacks you could have, should have said back. That makes it hard to pay attention to anything else, or to concentrate on your actual work at hand. But by following some simple steps, we can drop all that nonsense, become mindful, and step into the present moment. And these are the simple steps you will learn during a trust technique consultation. Entering the present moment, high energy thoughts and feelings drop away. We become selfless. We can listen again. And because our human and non-human friends all share our feelings, stepping into the present moment creates a calm place, a place where you and your horse, for example, can step into too. You are in effect saying, "Right now, be calm." But hang on a moment, didn't we already agree that never in the history of calming down has anyone actually calmed down by being told to do so? Correct. But the trust technique is never about making your horse do anything, including calming down. Rather, it's about creating a peaceful space that makes calming down possible, even inevitable. The other part of creating that space is mindful regard. Now, mindful regard is the official trust technique term, but because I am no fan of tautologies, I'm just going to call it regard. You have to listen, not just with your ears, but with all your senses. Be fully attentive, without an agenda of your own. Be still in your mind while in a state of listening. That's what regard is about. Example. Most of us have a friend that's a good listener and a calming presence when we're upset or angry. Sitting with them, we take on some of their calmness. Some. But then we hit a roadblock and we need to talk a bit more about what else is still bothering us before we calm down again. Your horse is like that too. You stand nearby in the present moment and your horse shares that feeling of calm. Energy levels drop, but they get to a point where they need to express new concerns. You'll see this when their heads pop up, or they get an itch, or they chew the lead rope or the rail. When this happens, you simply step out of the present moment, listen to the disquiet with no agenda, let your horse have their say. Then when they eventually drop that, and they will, you re-enter the present moment, and yours and their thinking and feelings drop away. Peace is its own reward. Using the trust technique, there's no need to nag your horse into calmness, which is really just shutting them down. Nor is there any need to bribe your horse into calmness with rewards. Horses catch on pretty quick once you drop your agenda and just make a space for peace. It's that simple. I say it's that simple, but it's not always easy. That's where your trust technique practitioner comes in. It's our job to guide you and your horse through creative reaction, showing you how to step into the present moment and then when to step back out again with regard, using the horse's own energy levels as the guide. In effect, trust technique practitioners hold a larger space, so you and your horse can stay confident and calm while learning these basic skills. That's you and your horse. It's very important. It's your relationship. There's not a lot of point in trust technique practitioners working with your animal without you involved lock, stock and barrel. In fact, it can be downright problematic. Think about it like this. Charlie has been with Taylor for 11 years, and Charlie tells me things are a little rocky between them lately, with Taylor blowing up tiny incidents into major spats. Charlie asks, "Can I have a chat with Taylor? See what gives?" Of course I agree, always happy to help my friends. With no skin in the game, when I meet Taylor, I'm completely open to what Taylor says, just listening, no judgment, no agenda. Taylor talks on, and I hear all about Taylor's frustrations with Charlie. Eventually, with all concerns vented, Taylor is thinking, wow, Dunk really gets me. If only Charlie was like that. Well, you can see where that's heading. Being listened to is empowering, and for horses it's bloody unusual. So we don't want the horse to fall in love with the trust technique practitioner. We want that relationship to blossom between horse and owner. And I say relationship, not training. Training systems create expectations. They are outcome-oriented and agenda-driven. That's no surprise. We humans have such big agendas as we go about our neoliberal lives of continuous self-improvement. That's true even if we employ the most humane, academically sanctioned training models, whether we use negative reinforcement, positive reinforcement, a combination of the two, it matters not. When our horses don't share our agenda, we judge them. Bad, green, stubborn, abused, resistant, dominant, shut down, nutcase. Whichever of those we decide, that horse needs some training to fix it. The trust technique is communication, not training. Using creative reaction, we can only work at the horse's pace. And mostly, they are genuinely surprised when they experience this for the first time. There's a word for working at another being's pace. It's compassion. And the byproducts of peace and compassion are trust and confidence. Trust and confidence lead to the second trust technique principle, realization learning. When we bring a horse's mind down, curiosity replaces fear. The horses train themselves. And when you help them do that, how do you think they think about you? For example, your horse is scared of a plastic bag snagged on the bush up ahead. There is no compassion in coercing your horse to move forward to the bag, whether by whip or by clicker. With the trust technique, we instead lower our own, and so our horse's, energy levels. Reduce thinking, reduce feelings, to find a more peaceful place. Relaxed, curiosity replaces fear, and horses are endlessly curious. And what is that, bags, anyway? After a time, and that's sometimes no time and sometimes a long time, your horse can't help themselves but go check out that bag. No coercion required. When you bully or bribe your horse, thoughts and feelings rise. There is no realization learning. Think about the difference between courage and peace. Courage is when fear exists, but you do it anyway. But with peace, there is no fear. Connection is safer than control. Realization learning leads to our third principle, trusted cooperation. We're not training the horse, we're supporting the horse. We reward the horse for actions we like, whether that's a treat or a scratch or verbal thanks. Should energy levels go up, though, we use the present moment to bring them down. Two minds in peaceful communication, sharing emotions, sharing imagination. This is not the same as training with positive reinforcement or R+ training. Simply put, positive reinforcement relies on cravings for dopamine, and addicts do not have a choice. As people glued to their Facebook feeds, or more seriously, to pokie machines, demonstrate every day. With trusted cooperation, you don't need to be the boss or the leader. There's no talk of respect. Fear is implicit in all those terms. There's no making things happen, only making space for things to happen in. However, trusted cooperation and even realization learning, there's some ways down the track yet. In your early consultations with a trust technique practitioner, you can expect to be mostly exploring present moment and regard, the two components of creative reaction. In a consultation, the trust technique practitioner, me, will walk you through those simple steps that show you the present moment and when to move in and when to move out to make the space of creative reaction. If that sounds a bit like meditating with horses, it is. The trust technique is a framework, a template if you like, of skills to help you become, with your horse, peaceful. Some people can struggle with meditation, but creative reaction is so much easier. Why? Because you are already becoming selfless when you regard your horse. And it's easier to let the chatter drop away when it's not about you. The trust technique explores some quite spiritual concepts, but in a very simple, practical format. But enough. I've got more to cover and limited time to do so. Ever since the I Had a Dream video went viral on socials, the trust technique is something most equestrians will be aware of, even if they don't remember the name. That short video showed groups of relaxed horses choosing to lie down and then fall into a deep sleep right next to humans, following humans as they ran through the forest. And of course, some of the obligatory tack-free riding. The rather handsome fellow that stars throughout is Trust Technique co-founder James French. As James has told it, his childhood was a traumatic one, and animals were his solace. He was nurtured as a kid by a Springer Spaniel, and growing up, he had this affinity with animals. Working a lot with horses, James discovered and used energy healing techniques to help them. And then, through Reiki, he met Shelley Slingo. Together, Shelley and James grew their talents in healing modalities and in animal communication, and that has become the trust technique. Since I Had a Dream was launched, the trust technique has grown and expanded. It now has support staff and educational streams. The educational streams are introductory, own animal, and professional. The trust technique practitioner course is the professional stream. It's mostly devised for people wanting to safely and effectively assist others while staying true to Shelley and James' original intentions. As an aside, that's not me. Once qualified, which requires a bunch of consultations with some humans and the animals, I have no intention of helping anyone. I worked, self-employed as an equine masseur and hoof trimmer for nearly 15 years, and I have zero intention of working with crazy horse owners ever again. Plus, I'm selfish son of a gun. But I'm walking down this fascinating avenue, mostly so I can explore further my relationships with the animals I live with. So about here, I originally included my spiel about how the trust technique fits into the bigger picture of animal work and animal care, which of course it does. With animal therapy now pretty much mainstream, and not only for ex-combat soldiers with PTSD and people with a disability finding new ways to travel this crazy world of ours, but also things like corporate trust building weekends and immersions for everyday folk, unwinding with the present of presence. But I've decided to be more ambitious than that. Of course, the trust technique is so much more than horses falling asleep all over the place. Remember what I said way back at the start? The trust technique can save the world, and I'm not joking. We're currently in a mass extinction event, the world's 6th mass extinction event, and its biggest, mostly caused by human activity. We know what needs to be done, but we seem unable to do it. We've lost our connection with our planet. In his wonderful love stories, right up front in the first chapter, Trent Dalton says, "The greatest gift we can give to the world is to shut up and listen to it." Or, if you prefer, in the words of Aboriginal elder Miriam Rose Angmar Bauman, "You call yourself an Australian? You have to listen to the land you walk on." The trust technique doesn't just work with horses and dogs and pigs, chooks, all of the other domestic animals. It also works with wild animals too. When you create a peaceful space, wild animals are attracted in. Yes, everyone wants to be listened to. Everyone wants a bit of quiet in their lives, even the wild ones. But what if we went a step further? I've practiced trust technique with wild animals, mostly feathered, some furry, but how far can you go? Using creative reaction, I've had spiders bungee down or climb up to sit on me, out of nowhere, 8 of them all at once. And from spiders, it doesn't seem so crazy to practice the trust technique with tree ferns or even creek systems. Okay, maybe that does seem a little crazy, whatever. The trust technique provides a simple and practical way to reconnect to country, to listen to the land. It's the best way I've found to reconnect to the non-human world, and I'm thrilled to have found it.